Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Tatted Rev, the Chosen One. My name is Sadia. If you are new to this channel, welcome. If you aren't, then welcome back. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Comment if the video has touched you, or if you just need to get something out, if the video resonated with you. That's what this channel is for. Now, I'm going to try not to make this video long, as I always say, but I can't help if the Holy Spirit comes through or it actually runs over a little longer than I would like. However, so this video is going to be about, I just wanted to share my experience in the trauma I endured of growing up with a narcissistic parent, and later in life, in adulthood, being involved, unbeknownst to me, what turned out to be a narcissistic relationship. And I did this video because, again, talking about what I go through helps me heal, but I know there are people who can relate. And oftentimes we can't even put a name to a person's character or a situation. We don't even know what it is because it's so new to us. And if we aren't exposed to just certain issues or certain qualities or patterns in a person, we don't know if it's good or bad, if it's healthy or if it's toxic. So I just want to give a little clarity on this situation. And 9 times out of 10, either you do have a narcissistic person in your family, or you dated one, or one you could work for one. Okay, but I just wanted you to know what signs to look for and how can you recognize these people and to stay away. Okay, stay away, because one thing about narcissists is they don't change. You can pray about it, you can cry about it, you can wish for it, it's not going to happen. So don't waste your time. And when it comes to toxicity, I don't care if this is your parent, like mine, you have to set healthy boundaries, which I will talk about later in the video. I will also talk about, like I said, how you recognize these qualities in people and to notice them. And sorry, I'm cooking. That's something like, is it ready yet? How to notice them, how to stay away, but also to see that if you don't deal with it or seek help, they will manifest in your intimate or platonic relationships. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to start off with having a narcissistic parent. Now, the parent I'm talking about specifically is my father. I shared in previous videos how the relationship with my father and myself was like never good, and he was absent majority of my life. Like 97% of my life, my father was absent. And it definitely took a toll on me. And he and I tried to have this conversation, but it's so hard when you try to talk to someone who don't take accountability for what they do. And it's everybody's fault but theirs. But anyway, growing up, like I said, my father was absent. So I noticed people less for me. As a small child, I'm like, okay, I love this person. Like, why is this person, like, not around? Like, why does he want to be a part of my life? Like, my mother loves me. Like, what's going on? So I told myself, okay, I said, I know it's going to make him come back. Like, who doesn't want a kid that is successful, that's smart, that does well in school, right? So I noticed that was my way of trying to like reel my dad back in and make him interested and make him wanted to be active in my life. Like, okay, like if I do really well in school and I'm like good and I listen to my parents, like, or my mom or him, like he's going to want to be around, right? Like, come on. Wrong. So as a kid, I was raised in Philly, I told you guys, in the inner city. So my mother, I was basically raised by my mother and my grandmother. Always knew who my father was. My mother always told me stories about how he was this great man who took care of her and my sister. We don't have the same father, my sister and I, and we're 6 years apart. And they were together at least 2 or 3 years before they had me, and everything was good. So by the time I was like 2, I think my parents had like broken up because, again, I was born in 86, and the 80s that's like the crack era. So that's basically what broke my family up, is because my dad had gotten on drugs, and it was so bad that my mother had to leave him because he was taking the money for like food and like buying drugs with it. So anyway, fast forward as I'm getting, fast forward to elementary school. We'll start there. So I noticed like my dad will come around sporadically. And he would make all these promises, like, we're going to go out and I'm going to do this with you. I know I haven't been there. He would always apologize for not being there. I was like, Sadia, I love you so much. Plus, you look just like me. Like, literally, y'all, I look like my father with hair. I mean, I have the complexion, the gap, the eyebrows. I have very thick eyebrows. Everything. I look like this man with hair. And he will always be apologetic and have like a lot of future plans that he never stuck to. And that's one of the signs of narcissism, or having a narcissist, or being with one, or having one as a parent, is a lot of future faking. He made a lot of promises, like I said, to be a part of my life, to be around for birthdays, and just watch me grow up, and just to be there, just to be a dad. Okay. So, when I'm little, so I'm like, oh my God, like finally, like, my mother always told him how good I was in school. He would ask me, how are you doing? I was always on an honor roll. And I'm like, okay, like my plan is working. Like, okay, he's coming around. So he would be in touch maybe like a day or two. And the day would come where we would, let's just say, I don't know, go to the movies or something. So let's say it's Saturday. He's like, I'm going to be there Saturday at noon. Be ready. I can't wait to see you. Like, he would talk to me all the way up until that point. So, and I'm a little kid. I'm like, my mother got me dressed, and we lived with my grandmother. And it was the 4 of us, my grandmother, my mother, my sister, and myself. And I would just wait on my grandma's step, and I'm trying not to cry because it like still chokes me up sometimes. So I would wait on her step, like, okay, he's coming. I mean, my mom did my hair. She always kept this nice. I was dressed. So it's 10:45. I'm like, okay, got a little bit of time. Then 11:30. I'm like, okay, it's not time yet. Then it was noon. Still no dad. And I sat there, like hours. And I remember asking my mom, like, where is he? Like, is he coming? And she just looked at me and she was like, Sadia, I don't think he's coming. So it would really hurt me. Like, of course I would cry. And one thing I noticed, what I would do as a kid, I would get really defiant. My mother would tell me to do something. Either I would say no, or I just won't do it. And I was never like that. So basically, I was young. I was young enough to understand that, like, this wasn't right. One, because of how it made me feel, but I didn't know how to articulate or even ask questions why. So I would become defiant to the parent who was there and, all the time, because I couldn't tell him how I feel or, be defiant with him because he wasn't present. So my mother would be like, hey, like, I'm the one that's here with you. Like, it's not my fault. Like, so like she would try to, make up or, for her, take me to the movies. But it's not the same coming from the person who promised you and the one who you were looking forward to being with. So fast forward, I'm getting older. Again, my dad was never around. Birthdays, prom, none of that. So fast forward to college, but he was in and out in between those times of elementary school, middle school, high school, like in and out, making promises, never keeping them. Like I said, a lot of future faking is one of the signs that you're dealing with a narcissist. And also, you're constantly confused, constantly questioning, like, what is going on? And even when you try to ask them questions, they somehow gaslight you or turn the situation around like it's your fault somehow. So fast forward, I'm in college, graduating, and he came back right before I graduated. And he was like, typical conversation. Sadia, I'm so proud of you. You're like the first graduate in our family. Like I couldn't be more proud. I tell everybody about your accomplishments, your achievements. And I want to be there at your graduation. Now, mind you, I'm from Philly. I went to school in Ohio. I'm like, this fool does not come into my graduation. Like, whatever. Because, like, at this point, I'm old enough to know, like, all right, well, how many times he said he was going to do something and he never comes through. So at this point, I'm like, all right, whatever. Lo and behold, this is the one time he shows up. However, this wasn't about me, though. Although this was my time, my accomplishment, it somehow became about my dad, okay? So he invited his girlfriend at the time and my godfather, who was never present in my life anyway. I was confused why he was even there. But anyway, he's there and I didn't notice it because I'm sitting with my graduating class. My name is being called. I'm walking, get my degree. And I see my dad walking around like with the camera, like taking pictures of me. So I'm like, okay, like whatever. Like he's taking photos. Like it's my graduation. Like that didn't seem normal to me. However, again, my mother was there, my grandmother was there, the rest of my family who has been around was there. And I remember my mother being so angry at my dad. And so the graduation is over. We're all outside. And also, too, I have no memories of my mom and dad ever getting along. Like, I never seen them kiss each other, tell each other they love each other, like, even be nice to each other. It was either they were arguing or, like, a awkward silence whenever they were, like, in the same vicinity or the same room. So, mind you, we all outside of the gymnasium of my graduation. And I remember my mom being mad. So after we went to dinner, of course, my dad did not join us due to the relationship with him and my mother. Like I said, my mother is always the parent who I have the most respect for. So after everything was over, we went to dinner. And that night, I asked my mom, like, what was wrong? Like, what? I noticed you were, like, upset when you saw my dad. Like, what was that about? And she said, Sadia, I was so mad. And she was like, although I was proud of you, he made that about him. And I'm like, what you mean? She was like, what she calls it, he was strutting around like a peacock, taking pictures of you, taking credit for your accomplishment as if he helped you or helped us get to where you are now. And she's like, I just felt like he just should have sat down and let you have that moment instead of him walking around like a proud dad, like he was there all the time. And so I mentioned, like I said, I mentioned I saw him walking around taking pictures, but it didn't even dawn on me that it was like look what I did, knowing he didn't do anything. However, I noticed that, and even people who know our family used to tell me like your dad talks so much about you, like that you go to this school and you're doing this and you're on the right track, and like basically bragging like I'm a show pony, right? But he was never there to actually help me get those things. And where we come from, like I said, like a lot of people don't graduate from college, or their children don't. And like I said, my father, not only has a college graduate, like I said, I have 2 master's degrees. I don't have any kids. I'm not in a crazy relationship. Like nobody's abusing me. Like I do want a family, but like I said, not out of wedlock due to I'm in clergy and I'm just trying to get on the right path and live the life that God wants me to have instead of the life I want to have. So I've done things a lot differently than most people where we're from. But like I said, I just want you to get to the idea of having a narcissistic parent. It's like you living in, and I just use this analogy, like you're from a place where everybody can't buy a Bentley or whatever thing that's expensive. It's like, well, you don't have one of these, so everybody wants to be around you or know you or just listen to the things that you have access to that other people don't. So when my dad used to brag about me, it was never really about me. It was like, well, look who I raised, or look what type of kid I have, and he was absent majority of my life. And as I said, when I would try to have conversations with him and share with him like how his absence affected me, he didn't understand. He was like, well, how did I do anything to you? Like, I wasn't around to. And I'm like, right, like, you not being around was the emotional scar. You future faking, you having me confused. You making me feel like I wasn't good enough hurt me, and it gave me a lot of dysfunction in my relationships. And I even told him, like, I even dated people that act like you or had your qualities because I was so mad at you and I couldn't let it go, that it started manifesting in my dating life because I didn't deal with my childhood trauma. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that my dad was a narcissist. And as I explained to you guys, I am in counseling. So I'm learning certain things, and and like just knowing how to name it and what category it was in. And I'm like, oh, like that's what I grew up with. But you never feel like you're enough. And I remember a kid, being a kid, just growing up, even into adulthood, like, like, why do I feel like I'm not enough? Like, why don't my dad love me enough to stick around? And it just really left a permanent scar that took me years to just come to terms with. And I don't think I'll ever get over it because he's my dad. And, like, every girl needs her father. You know what I mean? And it just helped. It hindered a lot of healthy relationships. I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like because, like I said, I never had it in my family. I never saw my mom and dad love each other or even be nice to each other. So it was really hard enduring it. And like I said, like with me, when I got old enough to date, I would be extremely mean to men. And I would cheat. And because it was like this to me in my head, since my dad always disappeared. And I thought, like, okay, all men want is probably sex or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? If I want to have sex with him, I will. If I don't, then I won't. But I'm going to get what I'm going to get anyway. And because they're going to leave. So let's speed up the process. So sometimes, like I said, I met some guys who I feel like I messed things up because I didn't know what it was like to have somebody really in love with you and really want to be with you because of you, not what you have or what you look like, So there were certain times where I've done a lot of mean things and disrespectful things for guys to leave or for someone to leave me. And then at that age, and I was so young, like I didn't care because I always had men, whether they were mine or somebody else's, you understand? So I didn't care how I hurt people because I was hurt. And I felt like the one man who was supposed to love me and care about me didn't care about hurting me. So if my dad doesn't love me, I'm like, why would any man would? Like, he's my dad. So I just put everybody in that same category. And what that did not only was force me to carry a lot of resentment and a grudge towards my dad, but it manifested in my dating life. Side note, like my dad was a womanizer. He was very handsome, tall, basketball built, well dressed. Like my dad was very into how he looked, like into it. Okay. So much so that I grew up, so I thought I was my father's only child. And I knew I was like, nobody was before me. I knew that. But I remember being like 9 or 10, and I was on a bus going somewhere by myself. I might have been going to school because mother let me go that far on public transportation. So I had to be going to school. So this woman walks up to me. I never seen this woman. Like, oh, like, are you Calvin's daughter? That's my dad's name. I'm like, yeah. And she was like, oh, well, you're so-and-so's little sister. And she mentioned a guy's name. And I'm like, who? And I'm like, first of all, mind you, I've always been spicy, honey. I'm like, first of all, I'm nobody's little sister. Like, I have an older sister, but she's a girl. So I don't know who you're talking about. And I said, when it comes to my dad doesn't have any other children but me. Okay? So I remember telling my mom about it. And it's so crazy because neither one of them had ever even brought this person up until somebody outside of the family brought it to me. So I'm like, Mom, like, let me tell you something crazy that happened. I'm on the bus. This lady talk about I'm so and so's little sister. Like, who would she talk about? Like, my dad have somebody else, have other kids. And that's when my mom was like, oh, well, when you were a baby, when you were like a couple months old, or like I think I was a year, because me and this person are a year apart, but I'm older. Like, oh, like this woman saying like her son is your dad's kid. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? So I'm like, well, is he? Is he my brother? They were like, I don't know. And I remember when I got older and I was talking to my dad, I'm like, Dad, like, like, do you have other kids besides me? And that's when he went into the story, like, oh, I was dealing with this person when I was with your mom. And I mean, he could be mine. I don't know. Like, he never said yes or no. We always said, I don't know. So I'm like, well, why don't you find out? Like, don't you want to know? Like, if this is, you have other kids out there besides me? And he was like, basically, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care to know. And I thought that was very selfish of him. But look who we're dealing with. Like, I was the kid who he knew was his, and he wasn't present. So why would he want to get to know or find out if somebody else out there that he don't even know is his or not? Like, he doesn't care. And that's another thing with narcissists. They lack empathy for anybody else. That's why I said if you're expecting them to care, to change, to call them out on it, stop. Save it. They're not going to see what you see. So it's in your best interest to give it to God, walk away, and work on you healing that experience. So fast forward into my dating life. Like I said, I dated many guys who remind me of my father, who are always attracted to men who were really handsome, really nice looking, had a lot of females, womanizers, dress really well, can talk. And that's another thing about narcissists, y'all. They can sell water to a whale and salt to a slug, honey. I mean, they can talk. They can convince you and other people to do anything. Okay? Anything. So I dated many guys like that, but it was one in particular who reminded me so much of my dad that it makes my skin crawl thinking about it. And, another thing that narcissists do that my dad did, that this person did, that I will go in a little in depth about, is when you make them mad, and it doesn't take much, when you make them mad, any secret that you told, any trauma, any vulnerability that you displayed or demonstrated to them is everybody's business. They are notorious of doing smear campaigns and turning people against you who either know you or don't. Okay? And that happened with my dad. It's within our family. He basically, when I set the boundaries, a boundary with my dad, like, okay, you know what? I can't deal with you coming back and forth in my life. Just stay gone. Like, mind you, at this time I'm grown. I'm over 25, maybe like 27, 28. And I remember his sister, who he found after 50 years, when he turned 50, when she and I had the same birthday. And she called me because I stopped talking to his whole side of the family. One thing about me is when I don't deal with one, I don't deal with none. I don't care who it is. So she was calling to check on me, and she was saying how she asked my dad about me. My dad was telling her how disrespectful I was, how defiant I was, how I got fired from like a job and I'm rude and I'm just like my mother. My mother's rude and my mother got fired from her job. All lies. Mind you, my mother has been with the Philadelphia school system for 35 years and she's retiring. Okay? 2021. She's done. Me, I've never been fired from her job. I'm the queen of a no call, no show, honey. When I'm done, I'm done. But I have never been fired from a job. So basically, what my dad did and what they do is they turn everybody against you. And you walk into a room and people who don't know you act like they do, and you're already being prejudged by what somebody else said. And if you don't get a heads up, God, thank God, like I did, you could really get your feelings hurt or get into a physical altercation. So that's another thing that narcissists do, is that when you make them mad, they share every secret. And they turn, like I said, they turn people against you, and you just have, it's just you in a room full of people who now either hate you or dislike you because of what somebody else said, and you never get to tell your side of the story. And the victim, in the real situation, when the victim becomes the aggressor, and for them, they become the victim and get the sympathy. And that's just something that they do. Don't expect an apology even if you bring it to them, because it's not going to happen. That's why I'm just like, it's no point of even pointing this behavior out to them or making them see it. They're not going to see it. Okay? So fast forward to me dating this guy. Not only are their birthdays so close together, they're 5 days apart. What I thought was love, or like what I thought this was love. Okay? I remember meeting this person, and I was in college at the time. Like I said, I was always popular, whether it was high school, college, whatever. So like I said, one thing about people who are narcissists, they like to attach themselves to people who everybody knows, or who can make them known, or, make people notice them. It's not really about you. Okay? So I thought he was cute, but like I said, I was talking to different people, different guys at the time. I'm in my sophomore year. He just got there. And so we started talking, and I remember him like really, I'm not going to say clingy, because I liked that we were around each other so much. And I remember me saying like, damn, like I didn't even expect to like this person like that. And I actually enjoyed being around him. I mean, he put it, this was when Facebook first came out. My pictures was up there, how much he cared about me. He was with this new person, and he really liked this person. Like, he showed me so much attention, and he bought me nice things, and was like, oh, I can see myself marrying you. Like, like I really, enjoy being with you. And it's called the love bombing phase. It's like a lot of attention. And it was like, it could be scary to some, like what? Like, what's happening? It was like kind of dreamlike. And I'm not going to lie, I loved it because it was new to me, because I wasn't used to that type of behavior specifically from somebody I dated. And it's really like dreamy, because you think about somebody who loves you and who, understood you. Like, I feel like we like the same things. We could talk literally for hours. Like I said, like literally we went to school together. We were from the same place. So we would literally, we were home for break. We used to go out, and like literally from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, like we were together, like all the time. And I met his family, it got really serious really, really fast. And in narcissistic relationships, the difference, I would say, it's like it doesn't move like a regular relationship. Like everything is excelled. It's like you got your foot on the gas and you going. Okay? He was very charming, again, very nice looking, very well dressed. And I remember him saying like, Dad, like you remind me, like just certain personality traits. Like I said, well, my dad, just to go back really quick, it wasn't all bad. Like I said, he was my dad, and like we like a lot of the same stuff. We got along when it was good. When it was good, it was great. And when it was bad, it was pure hell. And it was like this. Like I remember when we used to get in arguments with me and the guy I was dating, I was with at the time, like it would be bad, like bad. But when it was good, it was so good. But I remember we were home from break from college, and we were together, and he was dropping me off, I think at my mom's house, because we were so young, we didn't have our own homes. Like we were like I said, I was a sophomore, he just had got to college. So I remember him asking me like, was I cheating on him? I'm like, what? Like, mind you, we just had a great time. And I'm like, am I cheating on you? And I'm like, yo, like, how would I cheat? Like, I'm literally with you all the time. And at that time, I wasn't cheating on him. Like, I was just with him. And I couldn't understand, like, why are we talking about this? We just had a great time. And it was just like, where is this coming from? And I remember him, like, well, him saying, like, it's those small moments where we're not together that you could be seeing somebody else. I'm like, well, I'm not, because I'm actually happy with you. And I was. And I just could not understand why we were talking about this. And what I thought we were in a good place, but just going through counseling and just, now understanding, like, projection is the narcissist thing. So actually, what they're accusing you of are their confessions. He thought I was cheating because he was cheating. So come to find out, he really was cheating. And I'm not going to say that how I responded to that information was right. Because like I said, like, I'm older now. I'm 34. So now I can talk about my feelings and say how this hurt me, or, why did you do that? This was early. Honestly, y'all, I was so young, I wasn't even old enough to drink. Legally. That's how young I was. So it might have been like 19, 20, whatever. So when I found out he was cheating, like, I had a bad temper as a kid. I never liked authority, and I didn't deal well with people hurting my feelings who knew how much I loved them. Like, I didn't deal well with that. So when I found out he was cheating, like, it got physical on my end. And that's not something I'm proud of. That's not something I'm actually ashamed, because like I said, I didn't know how to communicate. Like, you hurt me. Like, I'm crying, but it's like when I used to fight the guys I was with and found out they were cheating, I wanted them to feel the pain that they caused me. So it wasn't like I'm not no windmill type of girl. Like, I'm like a square up closed fist type of person. And that's how I used to fight him. And he never hit me back. Like, he wasn't that type of guy. Like I said, that's not something I'm proud of. I'm actually ashamed to talk about it, but that's the reality of the situation. And I remember, he would cry. I'm crying. We're both crying. Like, he's like, why is you hitting me? What's going on? And he would say to me, if you love me, you wouldn't do this to me. And somehow he used to have me apologizing for hitting him. Apologizing for my behavior, although I had a right to be mad. How I responded was completely wrong. And I take full accountability for that. Wrong. But he never addressed his cheating. It was like, what I did was just so bad. Like, we never addressed him cheating. And I remember, even then, while it was going on, I'm like, yo, how the hell? And I used to apologize. Like, I'm sorry for doing that. You just really hurt my feelings. And then we would go from crying to kissing to having sex. And that's how the cycle was. Very toxic. But I remember, like, yo, and I told one of my friends, like, yo, how does he have control over me and my mind, that although he's wrong, my response was wrong, but I had every right to be mad. He's stepping out on, he's cheating, accusing me of cheating. I wasn't cheating, and he was, and he has me apologizing to him, and he was doing wrong. And so I knew that I was losing control. And we were together not even 3 months. And a lot had transpired was, within those 3 months. Things that I don't want to talk about because it got really deep, really, 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 really fast. And as fast as it started, it was like over. But it scarred me. And it was maybe like a year. Like I said, we weren't together. Maybe we might have been together 3 months. It was a long time ago. But it was brief. But we went through a lot. And I remember us breaking up. He broke up with me because of something I said to him. And he ended up not finishing school there. Like, he left like that spring semester. And he started in the fall. But I stayed at the school and graduated. But he would like spread rumors about me at the school. Because remember, I told you, when you make them mad and it's over, that's when the smear campaign starts. So he was talking about me to people that went to school with us, and nobody believed what he said, thank God. So again, we from the same place. We're both from Philly. So he went home and was talking stuff there, and other family members were talking stuff there like, oh, I'm the reason he didn't finish school. I'm this horrible person. And this is like years later. But mind you, I didn't find this out until like maybe like 5 years ago. And we were apart for years, but he would always like check in and like check on me. It was like, oh, I want to fix things, and maybe we should try to get back together. And I'm like, okay, well, let's try. Like, you know, because I still had feelings for him. As crazy as it was, as toxic as it was, like, I cared a lot about, like, I loved this person. And one thing I held on to was those good memories and try to sweep the bad ones under the rug. And when you're in that type of relationship or dealing with those people, like, you want to remember the good times, because when it was good, I told you it was really good. When it was bad, it was really bad. But I like to stay in those good moments. And I'm like, well, maybe we were just young and we just didn't know how to do this. You know, maybe, you know, we were just too young. So it was years later, and I remember the things, and I feel like God made this happen so I can heal. When we were supposed to meet up, like, he would call me out of the blue. I'm minding my own business. Like I said, I've been in school my whole life, so I was always in school, and I would be dating other people. Either I was actually with somebody else or I was completely single. And he would call me out of nowhere. We would talk for hours. Like, okay, like, you know, when we go home, you know, next time we both in town at the same time, we should definitely go out. We should, you know, meet up. And I'm like, all right, cool, like, whatever. And I remember the first time we were supposed to meet up, and he talked to me like up until like close to that time we were supposed to go out together, and never showed up. And the first 2 times it happened, it was like years, like literally like a year apart after the incident. And I'm like, okay, maybe something happened, like, whatever. And he will call me like, oh, something came up, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I remember I started like, okay, wait, this is intentional. Like, maybe something's not just coming up all the time. Like, you're trying to get me back. And I remember me feeling, when that happened, I would feel like that little girl on the step waiting for my dad, wanting to spend time with and see somebody I cared about. And it was like, well, Dad, like, why do I feel like that? Like, why do I feel like this little kid all over again? And what my therapist pointed out to me, like, oh, this is trauma in your childhood that you haven't healed. And it's manifested in your relationships. But I felt like God wanted that to happen so I can start to heal, so I can end this cycle of meeting this type of person or people. So long story short, just trying to fast forward, one thing about narcissism, like I said, because I hope I didn't confuse you all, but I wanted to point out a few things. One, if you don't address it, you will carry it, and it will manifest in your intimate or platonic relationships. Mainly what I'm saying is intimate relationships from myself and people I talk to. Two, like I said, like, narcissists are not really with you for you. It's either something you can do for them. It's always beneficial to them somehow. And they do a lot of, like, in a relationship, it's like a lot of love bombing, like heavy, I love you, I want to be with you. Like, it moves really, really quickly. And that's how they reel you in, is they act like they care about you. And one thing I failed to mention when I was with the guy I ended up dating, he watched me for like a month. And one thing about people who are, like I said, not the parent side, but the relationship side, they watch you, and they are good. They mirror you. So they see what you like, what you don't like, who you talk to. So basically they're trying to emulate and become the person who they think that you will be interested in. I remember, like I said, we were in school for like a month, because the school year had just started. And this man, y'all, like, when we finally like start the first conversation we had, he described every outfit I had on up until that day he met me. Mind you, he was in school for a month. So he watched me that closely. And to me, then I go, like, he liked me. Like, I'm thinking he likes me. Like, no, he was studying me. And that's what I want you guys to know. When it's a relationship, they study you. And if you're on social media, like now, like, it wasn't like I said, Facebook had just started. So it wasn't nowhere near as big as it is now. It's easier for you to attract a narcissist, especially if you're an empath like myself. Just being who we are attracts them. But with social media, it makes it easier for them to attach to you or prey on you, prey, because they can see what you like, what you post. You know, if you like how I say, oh, I'm abstinent, I'm in clergy, like this, like, oh, well, noted. I say I'm in clergy too. I'm say I'm, been abstinent for 2 years. Like they'll become that person in order to get close to you, just to devalue and destroy you. Okay, it does not last long. So I wanted to point out just a few qualities of the future faking, of the lack of empathy and sympathy for others, the devaluing of others. Like I said, it's never really about you. Sorry to tell you, whether it's a parent or somebody you dated, it's always about them and what they can get from you. And when it comes to people like that, they have a supply, like they're really likable. That's the thing. And I feel like, why do they get away with treating people like this? Because it's like we see them for who they are because we experienced the trauma and the pain that they cause. But to everybody else, like even with my dad, like everybody loves him. Like he's lovable. And I'm just like, yo, if you really see how he treats people who he say he loves, like you wouldn't even talk to this person. But I want to say that experiencing just those two alone almost destroyed me as a person, and as a woman. And like I said, like I wanted to make my, do this channel and talk about this because not everybody has the resources to go to counseling and pay to get this healing, or, like I said, I have a great support system around me when it comes to dealing with stuff like this. So like I said, if I can get it to you guys for free and we can all heal at the same time, or if you recognize some of these traits that you experience with a family member or a lover, like start to heal now. Don't expect an apology because you're not going to get it. However, let God step in and become that absent parent. And that's what God did for me, and the Lord told me the one time when my dad was in my life, the Lord spoke to me and said, this is the time he was paying my bills when I was in graduate school because I wasn't working. I was in school full time. And it was close to graduation of my first master's degree. And the Lord said, he's not going to be the father you want him to be because he can't. And he's not going to be at your graduation. And when the Lord spoke to me and said that, I cried because I'm like, this is my dad. Like he's finally around. Like I said, he's proud of me enough that he's helping me. What do you mean he's not going to be around? Lo and behold, graduation came. Before that, we got into a big argument. I knew that conversation would be the last. And it was. And December 13th, 2013, actually December 14th, 2013, that was my graduation date from the University of Dayton, came and my dad wasn't there. But I was already prepared because the Lord told me he wasn't going to be there. That's how I know I hear from God, because it actually happened. But I want to say that just how God saved me from these people, he'll save you. And it's funny how, like I said, even when my ex-boyfriend did a smear campaign about me and said I'm the reason why he didn't finish college and all of this, like, it's mighty funny how a person who has not one, not two, but 3 degrees forced you not to finish college. That doesn't sound like a person who, who would do something like that or has the ability to do something like that. But one thing about what God always done, he will vindicate you, and he will never send you into a situation blind. Like he will have other people tell you the truth and what people are really saying about you before they try to come back. Because when I found out that my ex-boyfriend basically did the smear campaign, not only at school, but in our hometown, he contacted me months after trying to see me again, but I already had got the tea from the Lord. Okay. So all of that was shut down. I mean, this man lied about him having a whole kid and everything. Like, that's how ridiculous he is. Okay. So it helps you understand, like I said, like they're not getting away with it. God will always deal with these people, but it's for God to deal with, not you. The main reason why I wanted to talk about this video is for you to heal. And having a dad like that and a lover like that forced me to set healthy boundaries. with myself. Like, you don't ever allow anybody to disrespect you and have access to you at the same time. And people only value you if you value yourself. So you set the tone on how people treat you. I don't care if they're your sister, they're your dad, a lover. That does not matter. No is a sentence, and you have to love you more than anybody else. And like I said, a person who loves you will never put themselves in a situation for them to either one, lose you, or lose or not be able to have access to you. Okay? So and I made a post about this because it just randomly popped in my head. I put it on my social media platforms. And when it comes to a lover, if them hurting you doesn't hurt them, they don't love you. And that's not even just for a relationship now. That can be for a family member too. If I say you hurt me and you're not hurt because I'm hurt, or you see that what you've done hurt me, you never care. But I want you guys to let that go. Let the Lord heal you. If you can afford counseling, do it. Like I said, I made a video about it. Should you see God or a therapist? And honey, she do both. She as in me, a talking third person. I do both. Okay? So it's nothing wrong with it. But I just wanted to share some of these traits of these toxic people who, it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They look amazing. They dress amazing. They know how to talk, but they're black on the inside. Okay, I don't know if you've ever seen Shallow Hal. It was one of my favorite movies. When his spiritual advisor, some guy he met in the elevator. It's been a while since I saw the movie, but long story short, he put a spell on Shallow Hal for him to see people for who they really are. So if you were ugly on the outside and were pretty on the inside, Hal saw you as beautiful. If you were beautiful on the outside, they had like a nasty demeanor or attitude, Hal saw you as ugly. And I want you to see these people, not see with this eye, but with your spiritual eye, with your third eye. Okay? So I learned to, one, discern who to let in your life. Okay? Especially a friend, but a lover. Because these people are going to have access to you and be intimate with you. So it's important to ask God, like, well, who is this person? And notice the red flags. Stop writing them off because you think this person is cute or it started off really well. No, if a person shows you who they are, you must believe them. Okay? But I did this video because I wanted to share my experience and my trauma, and that I'm still, like I said, I'm 34 and I'm in counseling, still healing childhood wounds, but I'm glad that I had the courage to do so, got the courage to talk about it with you all, and I want to be prepared for a healthy love because I deserve it, okay? But I just wanted you guys to recognize these traits in these people and stay away. And like I said, if it already happened to you, it's all right. Like, the Lord will vindicate and fight for you. He's done it for me. Like I said, every time somebody tried to do something or say something, the Lord either handled it or the Lord gave me the information and I handled it. Okay? But in a way that, one, I can stay out of jail because I have a lot to lose and nobody is worth my freedom. But it's okay to cry. It's okay that you went through this. It's not okay you went through it, but it's okay that you sit with those feelings and say, like, yo, I didn't deserve that. Get that cry out. Healing hurts. Tears are a part of the healing process and releasing. So, again, if you could comment and if you could relate to this, or if you could encounter these people, comment, like, subscribe, and share this video if it blessed somebody else. But I just want to thank you guys for hearing me out, for the new subscribers I gained. Again, welcome. And it's my job as a servant and as a minister to talk about certain things that people are scared to talk about. And I just want us to heal together. And I just want you guys to know that you're not in it by yourself. And the Holy Spirit gives me the courage to talk about this. Like, not every day is a good day for me. No matter if you follow me on social media and look like my life is amazing, I'm still fighting battles like everybody else. And I'm trying to be a better person, become my best self, and attract the love that I deserve. But first, I have to be that person. And also, you have to notice the patterns so you can break them. Okay? So again, I hope this video blessed you. And until the next time, See you guys and have a good night.